What is going on? Welcome back to Financial Journey. So today I want to talk to you on Rivian. I want to go over some of the current data points, what some analysts have been doing recently, and as well what some bigger names in the market have been doing with Rivian. Before I get into any of that, make sure you guys hit that thumbs up and subscribe. Always greatly appreciate that. And with that said, let's get right to it. So Rivian did go down 0.62%. Market just closed a couple of minutes ago. A lot of volatility, as you can kind of tell based on the intraday. So 1589 was the low, so that's kind of bouncing off of a very strong support, and 1630 was the high. A little bit low for the volume, so 15.95 million shares being traded, 28.59 is the average. No recent news from Rivian today, so no SEC filings, nothing like that. The last news was this, so Rivian launches apprenticeship program to support Georgia plant. So this is obviously good for the next 24 months, and it does keep a lot of good skilled labor in Rivian, which is a kind of a win-win in my opinion. So this definitely isn't a reason to go out and buy Rivian, but no matter what, I think this is good for the actual staffing aspect for the foreseeable future. But I'll give you an overview of some of the current data points. So these are some of the transactions that did occur on the secondary market over $100,000. Only one big transaction today, so about 2.05 million, and majority of these were buys, and you can tell that based on the bid, the ask, and the selling price. So when it comes down to this compared to the last couple of days, significantly lower. So once again, that's something just to kind of consider, especially considering their upcoming Q3 earnings is exactly 1 week away. So I'll give you an overview of what some analysts have recently been doing with that. So I'll start off by this. So I've been monitoring this for the earnings per share and the revenue, because when it comes down to upcoming earnings, there are several different things people care about: earnings per share, revenue, and future guidance. Future guidance is going to play a very big part in Rivian to see if it does piggyback off of the Q1 and Q2 optimism that management was really kind of spewing and sharing a little bit. But for earnings per share, it did go from 16 to 17 analysts, and it went from negative $1.34 to a negative $1.32 for earnings per share. So one analyst did get on board and was a little bit more optimistic. And no matter what though, even if you go looking at a lot of the earnings per share, historically Rivian always does far exceed on, I guess, compared to the analyst. So most likely that will be the case this time around. And for revenue though, there is still 18 analysts, so no change there, but one analyst recently did amend it to be a little bit more optimistic. So it did go from 1.31 billion to 1.32 billion for revenue. So definitely a fairly good thing. Unfortunately, when it comes to the revenue though, Rivian a little bit misses compared to analyst expectations. So when it comes down to this though, and just looking at a lot of the recent news that's been coming out, there is a ton of just negativity when it comes to this upcoming earnings, which again, in case you do not know, is on November the 7th. And a lot of people are going to probably be bringing up Tesla and how they've been once again cutting and how there's a demand issue. So analysts are going to be swarming Rivian like sharks. And if they are still burning through a ton of cash, that means they're just going to circle so much more. So definitely a lot of up and down. So when it comes down to Rivian, like I've signaled over the last couple of videos, it might not necessarily be the bottom, especially based on some of the recent developments that's been coming out on a larger scale. But bigger picture though, you want to find a company that has massive demand, and that obviously is Rivian in among itself. They even do say that in the last earnings as well, saying that there's going to be a big ramp up in Q3, and just the fact that they are really working towards cutting a lot of unnecessary expenses. So probably going back over here, this is why you did see a little bit more of a bump up in the actual earnings per share. So my own opinion, now financial advisor of course. If you are looking for a lot of good compiled information such as analyst ratings, forecasts, everything under the sun, take a look at Interactive Brokers, link in the description below and also the comments for all of this to be completely free. And while I'm actually on here, the last analyst rating was Cantor Fitzgerald, Andre Shepard, who oddly only does have a 13% success rating, so not necessarily the best, but a $29 price target. So clearly analysts still do love Rivian, and this is why most likely it's because of the demand for their vehicles. But who knows, I could be wrong. And when it comes down to some of the recent holders, it does look like both Vanguard and Blackrock, so the big players in the market, both increased their position in Rivian during Q3. So Vanguard did increase by about 2.01 million and 4.92 million for Blackrock. Not as much as I would have anticipated, but if you kind of do zoom out and look at this, kind of understandable. So during Q3 right here, maybe some people or some institutions might see it as overvalued, or hyped up. So again, maybe some people were anticipating this pullback. So let me know your thoughts on that. And while I'm actually on Ortex, I'll give you a quick overview of what shorts did. Not here to say that it's going to be a short squeeze or anything, just as a benchmark. But shorts did return about 52,000 shares today, 14.55% of the free floats being shorted, and 96.19 million shares overall are being shorted. And so when it comes down to Rivian and what they do offer, I feel like 14 or 15% is rather high. And even that does work out to be about $1.56 billion worth of shorts. So who knows? I'm obviously not saying that Rivian is going to be a squeeze play by any means, especially looking at the cost to borrow and every other data point is not there. But at the same time, having 15% is just for what they offer. I don't know. It's maybe they might be slowly closing out some of their position leading into the upcoming Q1 earnings, but that could be just maybe a pipe dream, something like that. Let me know your thoughts on that. I just wanted to share this with you. It's not anything crazy or a reason to go out and buy Rivian. I just like this humor. So obviously for Halloween, it looks like this right here, they did kind of adjust it. So a lot of the pedestrians are now being shown, or were being shown, as zombies or witches. So it'd be interesting to know if this is something that you can just turn on frequently or whenever you want, because I can see maybe some people wanting this all year round. Who knows? Kind of a interesting humor to this. But when it comes down to some of the data points, I'll go over with options. So $2.2 million in calls being purchased versus 4.23 million in puts. So based on this, people are anticipating for Rivian to continue to trend down, and the technicals just to break down even further. This shows all the calls, the strike prices, expiry date. Based on this and the open interest, it is anticipated to be between the around $16.50 and $18 range by their earnings. So I guess the November 10th expiry date. Looking at puts, people are anticipating for it to be below $15. So you kind of have both extremes. But if you're looking at the technicals though, with it at $16.13, which it did close roughly about 10 minutes ago, it is right now between this S1 and the pivot. So 1652 is going to be that next strong resistance, and 1584, which it kind of did bounce off of today, is going to be that next strong support. So once again, as I said, if that does break, especially leading up to the earnings, it could escalate and get significantly worse, if that makes sense, especially if you're looking on the actual chart. As it stands, it is lower percentile of the Bollinger Band and below a lot of the key pivotal moving averages. So if it does break below that, then you can anticipate roughly around 1542, or potentially as a result of their earnings, it go as low as 1475. But who knows? Definitely when it comes down to Rivian though, it's a fairly good long-term play if you ask me. A lot of people are saying that it might lead to bankruptcy. And it could, definitely, if they don't get under control their burn rate. But I feel like over the last several earnings, it has been improving, especially based on the last earnings. They did say that they're going to really be focusing on cutting a lot of unnecessary expenses. So at least they're acknowledging that and they're moving in the right direction. But we just have to wait and see 1 week away on what actually did happen during Q3. And a couple other additional data points. Looking at the momentum indicator, shows number of retail investors were essentially getting out today. So since it was below zero, so that's definitely not a good thing. Looking at stochastic, you do oddly enough see a little bit more of a bullish sentiment wanting to form, and it is right now at 11, which is considered oversold. So vice versa, still speaking on their upcoming earnings, if there is a nice positive surprise, you are going to see most likely a rush of value investors getting in, causing a nice pop up, and vice versa. So 1652, like I said, is a strong resistance, and then 1719 and 1761. So let me know your thoughts on Rivian in the comments below. What is your take on this upcoming earnings? Do you think that it's going to be equally as negative, or do you think it's going to be positive? What's your kind of viewpoint on all of that? At the same time, a lot of people are going to be looking at their multiples just to give you a good overview of kind of some expectations and if the prices are kind of normal, if that makes sense. So currently the PS ratio is about 5.2, which in comparison to, for instance, Polestar and even Tesla is a little bit high, but at the same time, Rivian does have a significant amount of demand, and they most likely are going to be continuing to expand during the next several quarters. So maybe this is why the future of 2.8 is kind of a good price. Let me know your thoughts on Rivian in the comments below. Don't forget to hit that thumbs up up and subscribe. Always greatly appreciate that. And one final thing I like to share with you is this amazing promo. Link in the description below and also the comments. Just sign up for an account with Moomoo, throw $100 at it, and you get 5 free stocks. Each stock is valued up to $2,000. So take advantage of this. Link in the description below and also the comments. With all that said, I appreciate all of you watching.